So it was 1983. I was 10 years old. I was living in Taiwan. My mom was taking my brother and me on a two-week tour of the United States. And my dad was already in the United States on business. And he would meet us at the tour and join us at the tour. So I've been reading the travel brochure, and it was very exciting. It was awesome. You know, the tour, it was like 3 days in Hawaii, and then San Francisco, and Yosemite, Las Vegas, and LA, which of course meant Disneyland. So it was also my first time outside of Taiwan, and also my first time on the airplane. So the tour group from Taiwan booked up most of that Continental Airlines flight. So during the flight, the kids started running around in packs around the airplane. You know, the only thing I knew how to say in English back then was one soda, because you know it gets you one free soda. So the plane landed in Honolulu. We checked into the hotel. We unpacked our bags. My mom sat me and my brother down and said, by the way, we're staying in the United States, you know, for good. So my life flashed in front of my eyes, all 10 years of it. I said, how is this happening? You know, what about my friends? What about this girl I liked? What about my stuff? Where's all my stuff? And my brother, who is 1 year older but infinitely wiser, rolled his eyes and said, how can you not see this coming? My parents packed everything. They sold the house. They sold the car. and I said, I thought international travel was really, really expensive. So at the end of the tour, my dad showed up in a gigantic American car, the Pontiac Phoenix, and drove us to our new home. Apparently, he's been preparing for our arrival. He's gotten us an apartment, he bought a restaurant with our savings, and he fixed up our immigration paperwork. So I guess this is where we're going to grow up, you know, in South County, San Diego, 5 miles north of the Mexican border. Now, being right next to the border, in a border town, when I started school, nobody in school spoke my native language. And I was constantly trying to figure out if I was learning English or Espanol. And some of the kids are undocumented from Mexico. Two of them, Elias and Stefano, they became my best friends. And I felt like I'm privileged with this illegal immigration status, that it's my duty to stand up for them, to make sure nobody picks on them. So like every time other kids would call them wetback, I would step up and people would back off because everybody thought that I knew karate. So that's where I grew up. You know, we spoke Spanglish. We ate machaca with eggs for breakfast. We ate menudo on Saturdays. At night, I would listen to radio coming from the other side of the border, playing like corrido or ranchera music, you know, la música mexicana. And then it's 11 o'clock when the station identification comes on. And then I would just stop everything I'm doing and I would repeat after the radio. Estéreo, 107.9, 9. See, that was my hometown now. I would defend it with my karate. I would defend it with everything I got. So I was in high school when the Berlin Wall fell. Nelson Mandela was taking down apartheid in South Africa. People were everywhere standing up for the rights, and I was swept up. For my college application, I wrote an essay about how, if accepted into UC San Diego, I was going to use my education. I was going to dedicate my life to standing up for justice and democracy and all that good stuff. And I said in that essay, I was really proud of myself. That night, when my parents came home from the restaurant, I told them I couldn't wait to tell them. And then I just saw blood drain from their faces. At first, we argued about being politically active. I said, hey, you did it in Taiwan. Why couldn't I do it here? So they sat me down again, and they said, yeah, you're actually an illegal immigrant. Apparently, my parents have screwed up the immigration paperwork a few years back. They just didn't bother to tell me. So I got that familiar feeling of kind of shock and betrayal, and the nagging feeling that my brother probably figured this out already. Oh, shoot. Okay, I'll try it. And then my parents said, well, why not be an engineer, instead? This is a good life, And by the time all I had left was resignation, I said, yeah, engineering, whatever. I guess my life's already planned out. My job is only to execute the plan. And then, so I spent the first few years of my adult life on autopilot. I just go to school, I kept my head down. I lived in the shadows. I was a wetback now. So in 1997, a law was going through a proposed law was going through Congress. It was called the IRA, Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibilities Act. It's a mouthful. The law basically turns the police, the hospitals, and also the courts into immigration agencies. Now, much of the law has been deemed to be unconstitutional soon after, just not soon enough. So as soon as the law was announced, people started dying in my hometown. People who were injured or sick, who were afraid to go to hospitals because they worried that their whole families would get deported. Criminals started targeting our hometown because stealing and robbing people in the daylight because they don't think that people would be courageous enough to call the cops or take them to court. So at that time, that year, I was in graduate school at UC Irvine, living on campus. A childhood friend of mine was going to college for the first time. She was the first time on her own, so her parents asked me to look out for her. So, I'll look in on her, I'll make sure that she's got no troubles with her classes, that her roommates weren't picking on her. She was like a little sister I never had. But one day she just suddenly moved, dropped out of school, moved out of the country, and then apparently her parents decided to move the family out because of that IRA law. So a week after she moved back to Taiwan, she jumped from a 7-story building window. So I heard this story from my parents on the phone. By the end of the call, we were all crying. It was like tears and snot, and the room was spinning, and it was all weird. And, I never had to deal with death before. So for some reason, I grabbed my suitcase and I started gathering my belongings. A photo album, some clothes, anything with sentimental value. I didn't know why I was packing. I didn't know where I was going to go after I packed. At some point, I just stopped, and I looked at this impressive amount of array of stuff in front of me. And I thought, all this stuff, is this why I'm afraid? Is this the bribe that I took to keep my head down and my mouth shut all these years? If I'd done something to fight, maybe my friend would still be alive. Maybe my hometown wouldn't be so decimated. So that was a pivotal turning point for me. And when you realize that there's really nothing to be afraid of, I can always go to Taiwan. My parents are no longer in trouble with the government. I can always, there's always Mexico. We're border town kids. We already speak the language and understand the culture. So, after that point, I realized that when you realize that you have nothing else to lose, you start to recognize everything you're about to gain. Freedom, and this pure fearlessness. So in immigration protests nowadays, there's a really commonly used phrase, chant. It goes like this: indocumentados y sin miedo. The sin miedo part of it means no fear, without fear. In 2003, I became a U.S. citizen. Ironically, I became one not because I was a community organizer at the time. I became one because I have several degrees in engineering. So today I have a good life, I have a good job, but I also have this understanding that if I were faced with having to lose everything all over again, my job, my car, my left arm, a devastating presidential election, I can get back up and I can do it all over again, because this time I get to be who I am. Thank you and happy New Year.